He has lived in the shadow of Alana's birthday for many years, and so we honor you today, Lucas, as well. Happy birthday. He's getting old on us, but that's another thing. Today I'm going to read Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you. You can go home. I'm just kidding. Saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. To give you an expected end. He has thought about this. He knows the thoughts that he is thinking towards you. We just got to get on the same page with him. We just got to align with him so that we're thinking the same way he's thinking and then acting on what he is wanting us to do. Lord, if you'll minister in this place today, use me to speak your word, Lord. Open the hearts of every person here. If it's just one sentence, Lord, let it minister. Let it challenge us. Let us be renewed, Lord, in hope and faith today. We give you honor. We give you praise. We give you glory. In Jesus' name. Look at your neighbor and say choices as you're seated. Choices. Today I'm going to talk, just for a minute, you may be seated. I'm going to talk about loading responses. Loading responses. Choices, we all make them. Big ones, small ones, little ones, daily. Do you know that approximately you make 35,000 choices daily? In your lifetime, research says an average person will make 773,000 decisions. And typically, adults make 27 judgments a day, usually starting with whether or not to keep hitting the snooze button. We've all been there, the struggle, it's real. So many choices, and a lot of them we've already kind of put our preferences of what we like. We're either pizza people or we're cheeseburger people. We're ice cream people. We like chocolate or vanilla. You kind of know what you want. You like sour candy or you like sweet candy, whatever. But we know what we have set up as the things that are our go-tos. But there's two types of choices I want to talk today about, and first of all is your individual choice. The ones you make for yourself, that you do what you want to do. You know the facts, you know what's in front of you, and then you make a decision based off of that fact. When you go to a restaurant, hopefully most adults in here, you decide what you want to eat and nobody else. You know what you're going to eat that day and you make the choice. The second type of choice, though, are choices that are made for you. These are the ones that you may not have an opinion or a say in, but you are directly affected by that choice. So for instance, when you're younger, your parents will make choices and they're not always going to come to you and say, Janice, what is your opinion in this matter? What do you think we should do? They're just going to tell you, Janice, do it. Okay. Your employer will do that. No matter what position you're in, sometimes they're going to tell you to do certain things and you're just going to have to go along with it. In this church, pastor will meet with our leaders and try to get opinions on most things, but ultimately he's going to have to make a decision because somebody has to make it. But the one thing about a choice or decision, whether you make it individually or it's made for you, everybody, point to yourself and say everybody, that's me, everybody has an obligation and a responsibility to control our response to that choice. So you 100% of the time must control your response. So no matter if it's something you wanted to do or not, your attitude, the way you treat people after the choice is made, how quickly you get over it, what you do to move forward from it. And I know every person in this room has experienced a time where choices were made for you, but how did you respond? And so at this point, normally I would have went and I would have found a story that lined up with somebody that made this epic choice and they're heroic and it changed their life. But I didn't feel to go that way. I feel like God gave me another option that he wanted me to share. And pastors always encouraged us to share your testimony. It's the most powerful tool that you have. It's something you experience that you can share with others. And though this is not my comfort zone, and sharing your testimony can be a vulnerable place, I couldn't get away from it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a condensed version of my life and what I had to endure and some choices that had to be made and responses thereafter. I was born in October of 1982. And my little sister was born 2 years after me in July of 1984. And for a while, we were a family of four. But as most people between the ages of 1 to 4 or 5, you don't always remember everything when you're at your age. But our family of four went to a family of 3 when I was 3.5 years old. My sister was 1.5 years. I don't remember my birth mother leaving. I don't, at that time, until I was older, didn't know all the reasons behind it. I do remember from the time I was 3.5 to about 6, a few visits. We went to the park. We went to this lookout tower that eventually my husband turned into a very positive experience when he proposed to me. But then I remember lots of promises of showing up, but never showing up. And the one thing that I can say is through that, my dad was a hero in my eyes. He raised basically Colton and Samuel by himself for most of our life until I was a teenager. He taught me everything I know. He taught me to cook and clean, how to ride a bike. He would wrestle with us on the floor, everything that I know, how to do my schoolwork. But above all things, he ultimately taught me and led me in the ways of God. That was his first priority. He taught us to value relationship with God, and he led us by his example in worship. We were at the church all the time, just like I am now. Multiple days in the week, whatever it might have been, we were at the church doing what God had called us to do. And I don't believe that there is anybody that can feel a specific role in your life if they're meant to. For instance, my birth mom. No one could feel what she was expected and should have been in my life. But I do feel that God gives us people to help fill some of those voids and help guide us and lead us. And they're there for a very specific time or season. And my first pastor's wife was that woman to me. I was 3.5. I was young until I was about 11. She was there for me, loved me, taught me things, was like a mother figure to me, and I'll forever be grateful for what she instilled. The three of us were together until I was 11, and my dad would date here and there, but nobody serious until he met Melody Up Church, and it all changed. I was 12 years old when they got married, and she was the perfect piece that we needed. Now, right after that, I didn't feel like she was the perfect piece, but she was definitely the perfect piece. And remember I talked about earlier that sometimes choices are made for you. Obviously, my birth mother leaving was not a choice that I made. That was a choice that she made. And I had to deal with it, and then I had to respond to that. And my dad talked to us many times about marrying my mom. It wasn't something he just did. But a few months after the wedding, big decisions did come down that did affect me, that didn't have anything to do with her other than our dog. But he got married in September. In October, we had to get rid of our dog because she was allergic to it, which I didn't really mind because I wasn't a pet person anyway. Still not a pet person, so that wasn't a big deal. But in November, we had to leave the only church that I had ever known my whole life. Long and short, I won't go into the details, but the church was leaving truth. They were going away from truth, and my dad could see where it was heading. And our salvation was more important than the relationships that we had built there, the memories that we had, the foundation of what that was. And so we left. I was 12, prime time of being a teenager. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. But I will tell you 100% my dad made the absolute right decision. 1,000% he made the right decision. That church ended up closing completely within a year. It completely shut down, and we were in a great church that I loved tremendously. And I just want to put a plug in here that sometimes, parents, you have to make hard decisions, not based on how your kids are going to respond, not based if they're going to like it or not. You have to do what is best for your family, especially when it comes to the things of God. They may not like it, they'll get over it. And when you're an adult like me, you'll understand why it happened, and you will appreciate it and be grateful. Unfortunately, when we left the church, no one in that church spoke to us again. I did not continue on any relationships as a 12-year-old. They didn't reach out to us. So here I am. I don't have a mom, a birth mom. She left when I was young. I don't have a pastor's wife anymore. My friends from that church were gone. And the year following my dad's first year of marriage, it was tough. New mom in the home, new church, a lot of adjustments. I was basically, in my eyes, as a teenager, especially growing up, I was like the mom of the house. I'd get my little sister ready for school. I would help my dad cook. So I kind of filled that role in my mind. So someone coming in that I had never had that experience. I'd never had a woman living in our home before. It was hard. And I fought it, and I was mouthy. I know, you don't believe that. I'm so nice and kind all the time. But I was, and we got to a point that I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision, okay, I can live like this, I can make our family miserable until I'm 18, move out and move on with my life and whatever, call it a day. Or I can decide this is pettiness, make things right, behave yourself, and see where it goes from there. And so I chose in that moment, probably one of the first times I remember making a really valid choice for myself, that I was going to respond differently than I had been because it was required. I love my mom to death. She gave me everything. She, like I said, was the perfect person that I needed. And I honor her today because she loves me as her own, and she still does. And so you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this today. And there's so much more details I could go into, but that's the short synopsis of it. But I'm telling you, my life was not perfect growing up, as most of us have our things that were not perfect or are not perfect. We're not in a perfect world. But one thing that we all have in common is our response to whatever trial we have been in. Bishop has been all over this. He was all over it Wednesday. This whole service has kind of been about that breaking change, and I'm here to just kind of solidify again how you respond to challenges will dictate how successful we are in our future. It will dictate how satisfied we are in doing what God has called us to do. So I can tell you, though, I'm 38 years old. I'll be 39 in October. I honestly am still continuing to make choices to move on from the aftermath of things in my life. I will not allow them to creep back in. For example, I battle with closure. Birth mom left. I left a church, never talked to the pastor or family again. When people leave the church suddenly, I have a hard time with it because I like closure. I like to solidify relationships. It's very important to me. So I internally have to process that and respond with, I'm still going to have relationships with people. The devil would like to intimidate me to say, okay, well, don't trust people. Don't go build relationships because if they leave, you're going to have to start the same struggle over and over and over, and I won't allow that to control me. I know what it feels like to be abandoned by people that were supposed to be there when you were young. Then the devil would love to be able to use this as a way to keep me from building relationships and loving people and fear of rejection. But I refuse to allow him to have that hold on my life. That's my response to that situation, to say, it's not going to happen. I'm going to keep doing it. I know what it feels like to live with regrets. I think we all do. I didn't have any contact with my birth mom until I was 21, and she found out I was pregnant with Alana. And she called a couple times, and the biggest issue was she wanted to skip right over me and go straight to her. She didn't ask me about my childhood or about my husband or my college or anything. Alana. And I said, you're going to know me first before you get anywhere near my kid. She didn't like that and didn't call back ever again. But tomorrow is the 11-year anniversary of the day that she passed away, alone in her apartment of a massive heart attack. I never got closure. I never got a chance to reconcile. I never got a chance to see what might have been. And do I battle regret sometimes? Yeah. Could I have done more? Should I not have been so hard on her? Should I have allowed that opportunity to grow? Maybe. But God reminds me that I am loved, I am his, and I can't continue to live in things that I cannot control. I cannot let that overwhelm my mind because I can't undo the past, but I can control the decisions of my future, and that's what I choose to do. That's what I choose to do. And so I'm not here to get pity. I'm here to tell you and to remind you that your life, as much as mine, we've gone through some stuff. We have dealt with some issues. We have had to deal with other people's decisions that have affected us. And I will say it again, I will not let the devil continue to have control over me for the rest of my life. I'm not going to do it. For greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world, which is the enemy and which is the devil. I feel strongly that people in this room, you have a past and experiences that you've gone through. I don't know every personal story or detail, but I do know that you have a choice. You can stay in that same place this week, next month, or next year. You can beat yourself up. You can look in that woe is me, I can't believe this happened to me mirror as long as you want, or you can say, enough is enough. God is more important to me, and he values me way more than that issue that is now long past in my control. You are valuable. You have purpose. You, Marcus, can be victorious. You, Janice, can live with purpose and have peace and love in your life. We do not need to continue to live under bondage. And furthermore, I'm kind of tired of the enemy controlling his children. I'm kind of tired of seeing us live. We literally live in our countenance defeated because we allow him to control our mind. And I'm here to challenge you. Move past it. Let it go. Let the enemy know I'm tired of you trying to control me. You're bound by your feelings that are effectively distracting you from God's plan in your life. You may live in fear, guilt, and shame will play over in your mind, and regret may consume you. Relationships have been broken. You've lost some relationships along the way. You might have become controlled by bitterness or hatred, and you can't get past being hateful because of the hatred that lives in you. All of these things distract us from our relationship with God. And as a body of Christ, this past year especially was full of setbacks. Due to choices made out of every one of our control, we were forced to do things that we didn't normally do. Isolation. We were forced to separate from each other. We had big plans for the church. 2020 was our year. Brand new building. We were going to establish ourselves in the community. Went to a standstill. We weren't allowed to do anything. We couldn't connect with people. We couldn't let them know that we were here. We couldn't even connect with each other. It was disappointing. It was frustrating. It was overwhelming. And I can almost hear the devil saying, if I could just separate them, if I can just get them away from each other, if I can just kill the momentum that I feel is rising in that church and the momentum and the excitement that I feel in their presence, if I can get those weaker people away from connecting every week with each other, if I can isolate them by themselves and make them put their dreams up on a shelf for a while, and more importantly, if I can make them comfortable and complacent with where they are. Comfortable and complacent. And most of us have gone back to how we were before. We got the unity, we got the excitement, but some of us are still struggling a little bit. We're still sitting back in that, well, until things are back to normal, I'm going to kind of have to just wait and see how this goes. And I got a little too comfortable, and I'm not quite ready to just move forward. But today I rebuke that mindset and that lifestyle. I am tired of just waiting around, and I'm challenging all of us in this room to say, enough is enough. And my response is going to be, bring it on, devil. We're ready for revival. Bring on whatever you're going to bring on. I'm not going to let that bother me any longer. Did you know that we've had 17 people added to the church in the last 6 months? That we've had 5 baptisms in the last 4 months? We had a lady get baptized on Easter that we're going to bring her family and connect her. Revival is here. We don't have time to waste. We don't have time to sit back. We got people to disciple. We got people to love. We got people that need drawing into us. They need to know what God can do for them, and we don't have time to just sit around and wait. If you will, that's what happens. If you will allow him, God will help you. He has an expected end. He has an expected end. And all we're doing is just living right in this one moment. And he said, I got so much more I want to do in you and through you, but you're stopping yourself so short of what he wants to do. Very quickly, I want to share a couple of people in the Bible and how important their response was to adversity. Moses, in Exodus 3:10-12, it says, come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth the people of the children of Israel out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? He said, certainly I will be with thee, and I will take a token unto thee, and I shall have thee. And when thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon the mountain. Moses was scared. He was intimidated by his lack of ability and by his speech. Ever felt that way? Intimidated to do something you knew God was calling you to do. This is intimidating. If you've never been up here, you should try it. It's intimidating. But he was scared about what he was going to do and how he was going to say things. And God, why would you choose me? There's so many other people. But certainly his response is what allowed him to have the freedom and the breakthrough to do exactly what God had called him to do. He went into that camp, into Pharaoh's camp, and he said, "Let my people go." His response dictated the next step of his life. What about Esther? She was a Jew, the queen, and she knew Haman was out to destroy her people. Esther 4:13 through 16, and then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, "Think not of yourself." Okay, I am kind of, the one here getting ready to make the big sacrifice. But he says, "Think not of thyself that thou shalt escape the king's house more than all the Jews." Skip down to verse 15. And then Esther bade them unto Mordecai this answer: "Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me. And neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so shall I go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish." She didn't care what the end result was. She didn't care what was going to happen to herself. I imagine, because if it was me, I would have been terrified. If she went into the king's court and the king did not accept her, she would be killed. I would be terrified. That's something that is an individual choice, but she knew further than just her individual self. It mattered to the rest of her people. If she took the "let me just wait and see" approach, it would have been too late. Haman would have won that battle. And so her response is what saved her people. She could not wait to see what had happened. She said, "I must take action now and do what God is calling me to do." And the same challenge is here. Are you ready to do what God is calling you to do, even if it's going to cost you some things, even if it's going to make you sacrifice some of your comfort, even if it's going to make you get out of those comfort zones that we have so easily retracted into? The three Hebrew boys in Daniel 3:14 through 16. In verse 14, it says, "Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set before you. Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fell down and worship the image which I had made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" It's like he's mocking him. Who do you think your God is? Really? Like, seriously? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, thou art not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand. But if it not, be it known unto thee," they were talking some smack, "just so you know, if he decides not to do it, it's not going to change our decision, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor will we worship the golden image which thou hast set up." Their response was not to bow. They did not worship any other god. They would be thrown into the furnace, but you know what? They would walk right back out of that furnace when other people were dying that put them in there. Do not tell me that if you don't make up your mind today, that I am sick and tired of people telling me who I got to serve, what I got to do, and how I got to do it, that God won't say, "I will honor your obedience. I will honor the thing that you are doing because that is what I am asking of you. I need to know you're going to do it. I need to know you're going to follow through." That kind of relationship with God is what I want. That he doesn't have to question, okay, well, will she really do it? And I honestly feel that, my personal opinions, COVID and us shutting down, it tested people, and some people kind of shocked me in the way that they responded to it. This exact thing right here. Okay, if you want to put me into the COVID, fine. but it's not going to dictate my response. I'm going to be more stronger and powerful when I come out. But some people are saying, well, maybe it will dictate my response. Maybe it will alter how I view and do. And God is calling us. If you've been here in the last few weeks and listened to the preaching, God is saying something is stirring. The pot is being stirred. You need to get on board with what God is challenging us to do. And how do we do that? We got to let some things go. Our response has to be, I have held on to that hurt. I have held on to that disappointment. I have held on to that frustration for way too long. Way too long. It's controlling everything. David and Goliath in 1 Samuel 17, 43 through 46. And the Philistines said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. Again, he's mocking him. And the Philistines said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. I can just imagine. Come on, you little twerp. Do your thing. What are you going to do to me? Then said David to the Philistines, thou comest to me with the sword and with the spear. You got it all together. You got the shield. You got the armor. You've got it all. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defeated. And this day, today, right now, the Lord will deliver thee unto mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee. David's response took on Goliath because he had the power, and he knew the power. Do you know the power that you possess because of God? Do you truly understand? That's what Pastor was just saying a few minutes ago. It's not because we say it, but do you truly believe that you have the power in you to change some things, to have an impact on people? Do you believe you can be a disciple to someone, that you can witness to them, that you can teach them, that you can train them? He wasn't afraid or held back by the size of this giant in his life. He literally looked him in the eyes and said, you see my rock and you see my sling? That's all I got. He tried on the armor. Too heavy. Don't like it. Don't want it. Give me what I know. Give me my sling and give me my stones. Give me the tools that God has already given us. He's given you his word. He's given you the Holy Ghost. You don't need anything else other than a response to what he is calling you to do. He went out there with confidence. Scrawny kid is what they called him. Little kid. Doesn't matter how big you are. You don't have to have it all together. You just got to be willing to say, I'm ready. I'm ready to be used. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to change some things. I'm ready to conquer some giants that have been trying to control my life. Story after story, an example after an example, we have seen responses to adversity in the Bible. And we've seen responses to adversity in our own lives. All of these people stood up and said, nope, I will not do what society expects me to do. I will not fall into that path, that line that says, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to obey the rules. You got to restrict yourself. You've got to limit yourself. That's what society says. Oh, well, you didn't have that in your life? Then you should just live this certain way for the rest of your life. No, ma'am. No, sir. God says, I got more from you. We will not bow down to the peer pressures of the world. I will not bow down to what they think I should do and how I should respond, because God is the one that is going to help me overcome those things to do greater things. What's holding you back? Is it fear? Well, guess what? God's not giving you the spirit of fear. That's not of God. So if you are living in fear, you're living with something that God says, I don't have anything to do with that. I'm here to deliver you out of that. What about your lack of trust? God says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and stop leaning on your own understanding. We are trying to figure out things that God says, I can only do that through you supernaturally. I can only perform that through you with my spirit, and you're trying to do it and control it on your own terms. Respond to him with no. I'm not going to continue to do that. Lord, I will pursue you and I will trust you, even though I don't see it. Even though I don't feel it. Is that what the song says? Even when it doesn't feel like anything's going on, I'm going to respond differently. And how is that? Praise. Every single day, all day, every day, no matter what, I'm going to respond with the opposite of what I should respond with. Maybe you've been in this trial. Maybe you've suffered something that has made you very weak. Too weak for what you feel that you can overcome. Guess what? The Bible has a scripture for that. It has a lot of scriptures for a lot of things. Just got to get in there and find them. Isaiah says, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. It is tiring sometimes to keep fighting the same battle over and over and over. It's wearisome to wake up every day and put on that same cloth, that same disappointment, that same frustration, and then try to go through your day with a positive attitude. Be not dismayed. I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. I'm going to uphold thee. Why are we trying to fight this on our own? God is saying, stop. Take a moment. Let me do something in you. Let me prove to you that you don't have to do this on your own. You're not by yourself. Maybe you're too weak. Maybe you can't do it alone. Well, Hebrews says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. You're not alone. You are here. So stand on truth. Stand steadfast with God. You have the power. Point to yourself, I have the power of the Holy Ghost, and I am going to stop holding on to some of the things that I literally cannot change. Do you know God is trying to birth harvest in you, revival in you? He wants you to feel hope again. He wants you to feel joy again. He wants you to feel peace. It may have been a long time since you've truly felt the peace of God. And you know, there's things in my life that I can make myself feel happy. I can be in a joyful experience or a moment. I know what it feels like to laugh, to have a good time around people. But there's something different about that inner joy, that deep, God-given joy that just kind of all the way from your head to your toes, that I don't care what's going on. I don't need this. I don't want this. And so what I do, I go looking for the positive things. When I got that inner joy, I go looking for the positive things that God is doing in my life and staying away from the negative, because that's exactly what the devil wants to do, is keep you bound up in that negative mind frame. It's always going to be this way. I'm never going to be able to change. This is just how God intended it to be. No. Find you some scriptures. Get in the word. Stir up that gift and see if God does something like what we were talking about in the song. Break the chains. Start dropping them. And once you drop them, the challenge today with the response is once you drop it, don't pick it back up again. Don't go back over there and pick that back up just because you're having a bad day and put it right back in your life. Walk away from it. You can go ahead and stand. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We went to Busch Gardens a few weeks ago with my family. My sister was here, and my niece was turning 16. And, just due to the current situation that we're in, I knew that face mask would be required, whatever. And that was okay. And we were about halfway through the park, and we came up upon this sign, and it said, face mask relaxation station. Face mask relaxation, I think it said zone, actually. Face mask relaxation zone. And I was like, what is this? Basically, they had a zone where you could go. You could take your mask off as long as you were distanced from other family member or not anybody in your group. Take it off and have just a moment of relaxation from that covering. Now, please don't get me wrong. I am not addressing the physical mask today for this message and illustration. You do what you feel is best for your family. There's respect all the way across the board. But what I'm talking about is a step further. It made me stop and think when I was thinking about this, that we have become so comfortable and so accustomed to covering up ourselves, isolating ourselves. Forget what happened this past year. That was a forced isolation. But beyond that, we come on with our perfect facades. We come on with our lives put together. We come in this place every Sunday. Yes, praise the Lord, brothers, sisters. I'm good. Life is good. Everything's good. And then we walk out the door with the same things that we carried right in here, covering ourselves and dealing with and not relinquishing those to God. Because we don't want people to think anything of us. We don't want people to question. We don't want people to be concerned. We want, and that's thanks to society, again, making another choice for us, that everything in your life has to be perfect. Thank you, social media, Instagram and Facebook. Do we not just post like the most perfect pictures after the 40 that we've taken? We only post that one. No one posts the ugly ones. No one posts the ugliness of their life. Oh man, I didn't pay my bills because I ate too much and I went out to eat too often. Now my water bill's cut off. Nobody posts it on Facebook. But that's the reality of life. Those are our choices that we make. But today in this moment, I want to take that spiritual element of the relaxation zone. And I want this altar to become a place individually that you come up and you say, Lord, I'm done. I'm done hiding behind. I'm done trying to put on this thing that I am not. I'm ready to respond in a different way to you today. I'm ready for some things to be taken away. I'm ready for that feeling. I'm ready for those things that I have built the wall. I've been hurt too many times, God, and I built a wall. I've been let down by people way too many times, and that wall just keeps getting thicker and thicker because I keep letting it get thicker, and I keep letting it separate me from you and the things that you want to do, and I am comfortable there. I'm very relaxed in this zone. I'm very complacent with where I am right now because, you know why? It doesn't require anything of me. It doesn't challenge me, and I'm okay with that because here's where I'm comfortable, in this little bubble that I have created for myself. But today's God is asking, what will your response be to his challenge of, are you ready to let it go? Are you ready to stop fighting? Are you ready to stop mentally dealing with that same thing? Are you ready for some new breakthroughs in your life? Like I said, revival is here. Every person in this room matters to the revival of this church. We can't do it without each other. So if you're struggling, if you have dealt with and you're tired of dealing with or coping with, I want this altar to be a place where we come individually to start out, because we've talked about breakthrough, and breakthrough afterwards is all about our praise. But individually, I want you to come and find a place. This is you and God. Take down those things. Take down those areas of your life that have been hindering you from being everything that he has called you to be. Lord, I want you to make me in your image. Lord, I want you to help me to overcome these things. I am too weak in my flesh to do it. If you're with us on live stream, find a place in your living room. Find a place and make that living room your altar. Turn on some music and get in connection with God, and we'll see you next week.